Today is the day that we have all been waiting for quite some time. Dylan Cruzs makes his debut against the New York Yankees. And more importantly, how big of a debut is this? And is this the most anticipated debut since Bryce Harper?
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can check us out over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as the show page at LO_Nationals. For all your latest Nationals news and notes, make sure to check us out over on Twitter. And of course, check us out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever it is, you can look up Locked On Nationals, hit that subscriber button for your daily content of the Washington Nationals. And of course, today is the day that we have been waiting for quite some time as Dylan Cruzs makes his major league debut. Yes, you heard that right. It is today at Nationals Park. It's supposed to be a pretty beautiful day on this Monday on August 26th. This will be a day that you remember for the rest of your life, hopefully. But later on in the show, we will be getting into some debut predictions. What will he do? We'll discuss that a little bit later on in today's program. But second segment, there is also some big news. Not news, but a former National threw out an idea that Juan Soto could potentially return to the Nationals in free agency. And there's a little bit of a connection here. I don't think it's a coincidence that Dylan Cruzs makes his debut against the New York Yankees in tonight's game. So we'll discuss that and that little conspiracy theory a little bit later on. But it's Dylan Cruzs Day here on Locked On Nationals. And as we get into it, today's episode is brought to you by SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is a reliable way to get parts fast. Shop for your next plumbing, HVAC, or electrical job and get fast shipping from coast to coast at SupplyHouse.com. I think Dylan Cruzs' debut today is the most anticipated debut in Nationals history since Bryce Harper. It's not James Wood. It's not CJ Abrams. It isn't Mackenzie Gore. And yes, is Dylan Cruzs probably not even the best prospect that we have seen this year? Yeah, I think James Wood is for us. I think James Wood will be your best player for hopefully the next 7 to 10 years. But I think the anticipation of Dylan Cruzs is much bigger than James Wood. Dylan Cruzs is the bigger name. He is the guy that you will see ESPN have on the front line in front of the Nationals logo. He is the guy that down south in the Bayou, in Louisiana, where he won a national championship, won the Golden Spikes Award for most valuable player in college baseball. One of the best college hitters of all time. Dylan Cruzs, in the anticipation, I don't think it really matches a Bryce Harper, but I do think this is the most anticipated debut in Nationals history since 2012 when Bryce Harper made his debut against the LA Dodgers. That's how big of a deal this is. And we can kind of get into the timing of the Nationals and why they did do this, which we will. But Dylan Cruzs and the debut of him, this is a huge day in Nationals history. So let's kind of get into it. Dylan Cruzs may not have put up the numbers that you would have expected down in AAA. But that doesn't mean this guy doesn't have the talent. And also, that doesn't mean that it's not going to click up in the majors. There have been some rumblings of people saying, are we sure about Dylan Cruzs? You have to stop that right now. He is going to be a much better big leaguer than what he is down in the minors. When you are Dylan Cruzs, a perennial top five prospect in baseball over the last 2 seasons, you're going to be circled in any lineup that you go against. And yes, he did kind of match up with Brady House and with James Wood as well. But Dylan Cruzs doesn't have the protection like a James Wood does now. And also calling up Dylan Cruzs now in this lineup, Where I see him kind of fitting in this lineup as we sit here today, I think Dylan Cruz should be your two-hitter. And the reason why I say that is because the way that I envision this lineup going at this point, you lead off with CJ Abrams, you have Dylan Cruz as your number 2, and you have James Wood as your number 3. And the reason why I would line that up that way is because for many different reasons. Number one, you kind of get that mix of left, right, and lefty at-bats. But then also, you protect one of your big-time prospects with Dylan Cruz. That's something that Cruz did not really have down in the minors. They kind of messed up with not messed up, but they did kind of tinker with the lineup a little too much in Rochester, even when James Wood was there for portions of this season. Dylan Cruz was batting like first, second. He was kind of just all around the place. James Wood did get injured as well. Brady House came up, but there really wasn't much consistency there in the lineup. But with now you have 3 big guns up in the bigs with Abrams, Cruz, and James Wood. Those 3 guys should be hitting in that order every single night starting tonight, in my opinion. You have to protect Dylan Cruz. Because if this guy can do what he can do, you can't really just pitch around CJ Abrams. He was an all-star. He's put up all-star numbers. While he still is in a slump right now, he's still overall pretty damn good. James Wood as well. James Wood has crazy 70-grade raw power, and you can't just pitch around him either. Then you have someone like Dylan Cruz who can spray the ball all over the yard, has a little bit of power, and really won't strike out as much. Those 3 guys in a lineup is a very dangerous 1-2-3 combo. Very dangerous. You should have them, in particular, you should have Dylan Cruz in between your 2 lefties with Abrams and Wood. For all the reasons that we just stated. Protecting Dylan Cruz in tonight's matchup in particular will be a huge kind of draw for the Nationals, in my opinion. And also, I think it could work out really well. Having that protection, I think that is when you will see Dylan Cruz really take off. Because, again, the numbers were relatively kind of underwhelming. He had a 792 OPS this season across AA and as well as AAA. And in AAA, he did do a little bit better, finishing with a 795 ops on the year. He even stole 25 bags across both those levels this season. But I expect more from Dylan Cruz. I do. He had 13 home runs, 68 RBIs at 100 games at both those levels. I think you could see Dylan Cruz really take off in this Nationals lineup in between Wood and Abrams. So the anticipation, though, of this debut, I do want to kind of get back into that. This is an all-star kind of player. And also, I think the ceiling of this could be an MVP kind of talent someday. James Wood is in the same boat as well. But Dylan Cruz is the bigger name. You will probably see a lot more fans in the stadium than what we saw for James Wood's debut. He's just a bigger name. He's more of a national name. He was known well before we knew about James Wood. Dylan Cruz could have been a first-round pick back in 2020. He opted to go to LSU, where he went on to be one of the better college hitters of all time. Dylan Cruz is going to be just fine up in the bigs. But as we were kind of saying, Davey Martinez, I hope to God he doesn't bat Cruz 6th tonight or 7th. Get the lineup of the future in there starting tonight. Abrams leading it off, then going to Dylan Cruz, and then James Wood. And we've seen Luis Garcia bat cleanup over the weekend against the Braves, bat him cleanup because the way that he's been hitting, that is a very good 1, 2, 3, 4 punch right there. And Andres Chaparro, whatever else there is after that, we'll see. But tonight, you're going to be seeing a very fun outfield between James Wood and Dylan Cruz. And this is going to be the future of Nationals baseball. And you should be excited because this is the day that we have all been waiting for. But speaking of the future of the Nationals outfield, Juan Soto, he was in the past. Could he make a return to DC? Well, there's one prominent, pretty big-time analyst who didn't predict that, but he said the Nationals could be a dark horse. We've kind of known that. So is it realistic? Because again, Juan Soto comes to Nationals Park for the first time this season. Could Juan Soto be a Washington National yet again? I want to answer that after we tell you guys about some of our very good friends over at SupplyHouse. And guys, we talk about SupplyHouse. You already know the drill. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is a reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. Now let's get back into it because we got to talk about Juan Soto yet again. Could Juan Soto actually return here to DC? Is it possible? I do think it's possible. I do. But I don't predict that to happen at all. Now, as we were saying, a former National / a big-time MLB Network analyst kind of threw out the idea that Mike Rizzo could be kind of doing something here and might try to reel back in Juan Soto this offseason. I don't think that's possible. Now, for the reasons why I don't think it's possible may not be for what you think. We all talk about the learners, the owners here in town. They don't spend money. They don't keep their star players. Why would they go trade away Juan Soto and then just sign him back in free agency? I think the learners would spend on Juan Soto. People talk about the extension that they tried to give Soto just 2 years ago, and they laughed that off. Now, for one thing, let's start this off. Juan Soto should have declined that contract. But if you are upset with the offer that the learners made, you're wrong. He was going to be given, at that time, the biggest contract in MLB history. I'm not going to complain about that. That is not some silly offer, in my opinion. That is a very fair offer. But why I don't think it is possible? Well, the team you have in town tonight, the New York Yankees, and the team that plays about 5-10 miles away from Yankee Stadium, the New York Mets, with Steve Cohen as the owner. Those are the two reasons why I don't think it really is that possible for the Nationals to sign Juan Soto. You have these two big, massive market teams. Steve Cohen, that has shown that he does not care how much money he spends. He wants to be a winner. They didn't really go that crazy this last offseason. And if you look at this free agency market, it ain't all that good. But there is one guy. It is number 22 who plays for the New York Yankees, Juan Soto. I think the Mets, and as well as the Yankees, and also maybe another team as well. Hell, it could be the Dodgers. Or even, I think, a dark horse team. I don't think he does sign there because of where they are, but the LA Angels. Teams like that are very ultra aggressive in getting free agents in the door, that's where I think he will land. But that doesn't say that the Nationals will not try and will not be a finalist. Because I still think there is a slight possibility. And again, with Cruzs making his debut tonight, don't you kind of think that is something there? Is it just a coincidence to you that Dylan Cruzs makes his debut tonight against the New York Yankees as Juan Soto enters free agency? You have James Wood roaming the outfield. You have Dylan Cruzs out there as well. You've got C.J. Abrams over at shortstop. You've got Luis Garcia Jr., who Juan Soto played with here for a few years, breaking out at second base. You've got a pretty solid starting rotation that consists of young pitchers. I don't think it's that big of a coincidence. I think this is kind of an organized little crime by Mike Rizzo. He knows what he's doing. He wants people to talk about, well, look how much talent the Nationals have. You've got Dylan Cruzs, who's making his debut. You've got James Wood, who's an established big leaguer already and who's looking like an MVP candidate at 21 years old. He won't win MVP this year, obviously, but down the road, very easily could be. The cherry on top could be Juan Soto. And I don't think Juan Soto really has that hard of feelings about this organization for trading him away. He's talked real well about it. He is very tight with Davey Martinez, very tight with Mike Rizzo, and tight with some of the older guys on this team. I don't think it would be crazy at all if Juan Soto did want to see sign back here in Washington. But for the two reasons that I listed, Steinbrenner and Cohen, the owner of the Yankees and the Mets, they're going to go after him aggressively. And I don't think we have the horsepower to go against teams like that at this point. When you are talking about a generational talent the way that Juan Soto is, he's not going to get Shohei money, but he's going to get pretty damn close to that. I think he gets $600 million, maybe more. That's the kind of talent that you are talking about with Juan Soto. Now, if the Learners do the deferred money thing and really raise it up to $650 million, maybe Juan Soto does come back here. But I just don't think we will do that. I don't think Juan will do that. Because if you are just being honest, you could talk about the Mets in the way that we are set up better in the future than they are. But I don't think we are better than the Yankees at this point. They're the Yankees. You understand that. They go out there and they'll pay anybody, anytime, anywhere. They'll put a World Series contender out there every single season. And while the Nationals, Juan Soto did win a World Series here, you still have your manager there. You still have the president of baseball operations here, and you still have the same ownership intact. Maybe Juan does look at this and say, this could be a good opportunity here. Scott Boras does have a working relationship with Rizzo and as well as the Lerner family. But I just don't think we can outbid a team like that at this point. But Mark DeRosa for MLB Network, he did kind of throw this out there. I'm not saying this guy is like some witch or whatever you want out there, but he does have ties to the organization. He played under Mike Rizzo here in DC. You all remember him. He was a fine player. But this guy does have connections in the industry. I don't think it's that big of a secret that if you are a team that can spend money, you're going to go after Juan Soto. You're at least going to put your foot in that little circle there. And I think the Nationals will do just that. But don't get your hopes up. Just don't. Because in all likelihood, it probably won't happen. And that's just fine. You should not be upset over that fact. The fact of the matter is this. Juan Soto will be in New York. But the bigger question will be, is which New York team will he be at? Because in my honest opinion, and I hate to say it, I think he's a Met. Because I think Steve Cohen goes in there and offers him, hell, he might even go $700 million. I don't think the Yankees have that. And I certainly know the Nats don't have the budget to give $700 million out. It's going to be a crazy, wild offseason. We'll be talking about Juan Soto here all year. But good for us because Mike Rizzo and the connections being made. You've got Dylan Cruzs making your debut tonight. You have James Wood taken off already as a 21-year-old who's just killing the baseball and just playing very well overall. The Nationals, they do have themselves a nice future. And I don't think this is just a coincidence that Dylan Cruzs makes his debut tonight against the Yankees. And Juan Soto's back in town. Juan, you could be roaming that outfield, and let's be honest. If you have Juan Soto, Dylan Cruz, and James Wood in the same outfield, there's not a better outfield in all of baseball. And I think Juan will know that as well. So we'll see. But now, what will Dylan Cruz, the man of the day, do tonight? Major League Baseball debut, one of the most anticipated debuts for baseball this season, as well as for the Nationals since Bryce Harper, in my opinion. What will he do? Will he get his first hit? Will he get an extra base hit? Will he go over? Will he just have a walk? Or will he just ball out completely? And where will he bat? I'll have all of that for you. But before that, let me tell you guys about some of our very good friends over at FanDuel. And guys, you already know the drill with FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, which is America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. That is right. You can watch every out-of-market game, whether you're a Bears fan, a Packers fan, a Niners fan, whatever team, or a New York fan, or even a Patriots fan, whatever it is, they've got you covered. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. Again, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. And now we get back into it with Dylan Cruz making his debut tonight against the New York Yankees. And you might be wondering, if you're an everydayer, Ryan, where's the MLB stock report? Where's the Nat stock report for today's? It's a Dylan Cruz day, man. We're not doing a stock report. But Dylan Cruz, lucky for him, he makes his debut against Nestor Cortez. Nasty Nestor, you all know the name. He's 7-10 on the year with a 4 ERA. But what will Dylan Cruz do against that kid tonight? Well, here's the thing about Dylan Cruz. He's got some very weird splits this season. We've talked a lot about this on the show here. We've talked a lot about all the different things kind of going on against him. But when he is going up against left-handed pitching, in 2024, he has a 628 OPS against left-handed pitching. You look at that matchup and you're like, well, on paper, you're like, left-handed pitcher going against a very good right-handed bat. Dylan Cruz is made gold. That's not the case. He's only got 1 home run out of his 13 across AA and AAA this year against left-handed pitching. He's batting .218 against lefties compared to .282 against righties. His slugging is down considerably from .295 against lefties compared to .489 against right-handed pitching. He's got an .833 OPS against righties and a .628 OPS against lefties. I would like to think Cruz could do a little bit better, but then also there's this. He's got an .898 OPS on the road compared to a .693 OPS at home. For whatever reason, Dylan Cruz does not perform in front of the home crowds, at least down in the minors. Now, I do think that will change as he kind of gets acclimated, as he is an everyday player here in DC. But the track record is that number one, he's a lot better against right-handed pitching. And number two, he's a lot better on the road. I don't know if that's going to translate well up into the majors. I don't think you will see him kind of just not be good at home anymore. I don't know what the reason for that is, but he has not been hitting well in Harrisburg, and he did not hit well in Rochester when he was at home. But ultimately, these are things that you kind of have to think about. Is it just something that's in his head? I don't really know. Well, let's kind of get back into it with Cruz making his debut. Again, Cruz should be your number two hitter tonight. He enters this lineup in tonight's game as, in my opinion, one of, if not the best overall hitter in this lineup already. You've got James Wood at the forefront. You could say Luis Garcia and CJ Abrams are in that conversation as well at this point. But Dylan Cruzs, the ceiling for this guy is just right up there. He is going to be the guy, again, that ESPN will be talking about tonight. You'll see ESPN reporters down on the sideline for Dylan Cruzs' debut. You'll see out-of-market people coming to town to see Dylan Cruzs. This is a big-name guy. To make his debut against the New York Yankees is a very big deal, in my opinion. This is not a coincidence, as I said. You're going up against Juan Soto, who comes back to town in D.C. Cruzs making his debut. James Wood is red hot. There is a momentum of national coverage coming for the Nationals here. And it's at the right time. So overall, do I think Dylan Cruzs gets a hit tonight? I do. Do I think he makes some crazy impact play if the ball's hit his way? I think he should. But I don't really know where he's going to play at this point. Are you going to move off Jacob Young in center field? I don't think so. But Cruzs in right field, maybe. I see him as a center fielder down the road. He hasn't really taken that many reps in right field. He's always been center field. So I'll be interested to see where he plays in the outfield. But down the road in the future, he's a center fielder. And I think James Wood is also a right fielder as well. We've kind of talked about that and why I think that. But it's just more of a natural fit. James Wood in right field, Dylan Cruzs in center. Jacob Young has been a Gold Glove caliber center fielder this year. In fact, he should win the Gold Glove this year. So it's kind of hard to move off him at this point. But he's not really part of the future. He's not going to be in your lineup every single day. He does have a great impact out there defensively, and we've seen it every single game nearly. But is he a part of this future? I don't know. And I'm going to say probably not. You could either go out and sign Soto. Maybe Robert Hassel comes up and make an impact. Maybe Seaver King in 2-3 years is going to be in your outfield, roam in the outfield as well. Maybe Elijah Green really turns it around and he's in the outfield in a couple of years. Christian Vaquero. There are a lot of outfielding prospects in this scenario. Luke Dickerson as well. Who knows at this point? But I can tell you this. I'm not making sacrifices to keep Jacob Young in center field. If you think Cruzs is going to be your center fielder of the future, put him in center field tonight and figure out the rest. Simple as that. That is my ask. But I do think ultimately Dylan Cruzs, you will see his first hit tonight against Nestor Cortez. And it's going to be a fun night at the ballpark. It should be a beautiful day. It's going to be warm. It's going to be humid. He's from Florida, though. He played in Louisiana. That's nothing to him. So this is going to be a fun night of baseball, a huge night for DC, and what a day to be a Washington Nationals fan. What a day. We'll discuss his debut on tomorrow's show, but until then, it's Dylan Cruzs' debut time. The kid, he is finally up in the bigs. Have a good one. Enjoy the game tonight. Go Nats.